Thomas Mercer had his finger poised on the trigger when he spotted something that halted 15 years of honed hunting instincts in their tracks. The lion was impeccable, a mature male around 8 years old with a thick, dark mane signifying him as a top-tier specimen valued at $20,000 by the safari outfit that had contracted Thomas for this ultimate assignment. Through his rifle's scope, Thomas absorbed every nuance, the robust shoulders, the battle-worn snout narrating tales of endurance, and the golden eyes surveying the savannah with the assurance of a supreme predator. One inhale, one pull, one bullet, that would fix it all. The mounting hospital costs from Catherine's last days. The loan on a home he couldn't stand to occupy anymore. The debts that had compelled him to take on this final hunt despite his waning passion for the trade over the past 2 years. The lion shifted a bit, and that's when Thomas noticed it. Positioned less than 2 feet from the beast, near enough for a lethal paw strike, stood an elephant calf, barely 4 months old. Thomas eased the rifle down, his pulse racing in a manner unrelated to the thrill of the chase. What unfolded over the ensuing 21 days in the Okavango Delta would dismantle him and reconstruct him into an unrecognizable version of himself. 3 existences intertwining in one of Earth's most ancient wilds. A mourning lion opting for guardianship over hunting. A forsaken infant discovering that rescue can emerge from the unlikeliest source. And a man realizing that the greatest prize is the one you forgo. This is the tale of when primal urges trumped reason, when sorrow discovered meaning, and when a hunter grasped the essence of allowing life to persist. Before delving deeper into this remarkable saga, I'd like to mention something. Narratives like this, ones that honor the astonishing connections among animals and the life-altering force of empathy, are the core of Wild Heart Stories. If you feel these tales merit sharing, if you wish to aid us in touching more hearts that crave the splendor of the natural world, please think about subscribing to our channel. Each additional subscriber fortifies our group and enables us to keep disseminating these impactful, authentic accounts. Now let's rejoin Thomas the lion and the infant elephant whose destinies were on the verge of eternal alteration. The Okavango Delta, in late August, presented a tapestry of opposites. Abundance of water amid arid stretches, vitality and demise mere steps apart. Thomas had pursued this specific lion for 3 days, and now, via his scope, he beheld a scene defying every tenet of hunter and hunted. A colossal male lion ambling leisurely across a parched riverbed, with the elephant youngster clinging to his side. The calf's trunk sporadically brushed the lion's flank, as though craving affirmation. This wasn't predation. The lion's demeanor was ill-suited for a hunt, his frame lax, tail swinging idly. When the calf faltered on rough terrain, the lion halted, awaiting the little one's recovery. It mirrored a guardian with its young, not a carnivore enduring potential food. Through the lens, Thomas scrutinized the elephant calf further. So youthful, its hide retained the tender gray pink of newborns, ears oversized for its skull. But what hit Thomas hardest was the calf's state. Emaciated, ribs faintly protruding, actions feeble. This infant was in peril. Detached from its group, a babe this tender had maybe 48 hours before thirst and hunger proved deadly. The lion guided the calf to the arid riverbed and commenced excavating with mighty forepaw sweeps, piercing the tough surface to access moist soil below. Then he withdrew, and the calf advanced, its trunk delving into the damp earth, drawing up meager sips of murky liquid. The lion lounged nearby, observing. When scavengers swooped in, the lion lunged with a thunderous bellow that reverberated through the channel, repelling them with raw intensity. This calf was shielded. Thomas leaned against a boulder, grappling to comprehend the spectacle. Lions didn't nurture elephant calves. They dispatched them at opportune moments. This contravened nature, defied primal drives. Yet as Thomas observed the lion nestle beside the calf, noted how the infant inched nearer to the predator's heat, he discerned a truth. This wasn't counter to instinct. It was instinct, albeit an alternate form. The drive that compels a caretaker to forfeit for progeny. He was beholding sorrow morph into intent. Thomas had encountered that gaze previously, in his reflection each dawn for 2 years, the vacant stare of one who'd forfeited their world's cornerstone. He identified bereavement even in a lion's countenance. The beast had been commissioned for slaughter, and somehow that void had channeled into safeguarding a faltering elephant calf that had evolved into kin. The pragmatic hunter in Thomas urged him to fire. The agreement was explicit, the funds essential. His digit located the trigger once more. He hoisted the firearm, aligned the sights on the lion's torso, a precise termination, expert. Through the scope, the lion pivoted his head marginally, and for an implausible instant, those golden eyes locked onto him. "Don't rob me of this. I've already endured total loss once, not anew." The elephant calf emitted a noise, a shrill blare of alarm, the timeless wail of a youngster summoning a guardian, and the lion reacted promptly, shifting to the calf's flank and leaning his vast frame against the tiny form. "I'm present. You're secure." Thomas removed his finger from the trigger. He lingered there extensively, observing the lion and calf in the riverbed beneath. When Thomas ultimately disengaged the safety on his rifle, his palms trembled. He retrieved his satellite device and composed a dispatch he knew would exact a heavy toll. Unable to fulfill assignment. Creature conduct deviates from standard. Suggest monitoring interval. Will stay positioned and oversee. Mercer. The reply arrived in 10 minutes. Assignment revoked. Report to headquarters forthwith. Ultimate compensation relinquished. Thomas had just forsaken $20,000, capital he direly required. But gazing back at the lion and calf reclining in the shadows, he sensed something absent for 2 years. Direction. Whatever transpired next, he would observe it. And perhaps in observing the improbable, he'd decipher how to navigate his own griefs. That evening, Thomas established camp 300 yards from the lion and calf's resting spot. As night descended, he huddled by a modest blaze and performed an act untouched since Catherine's burial. He wept. For himself, for the 15 years expended extinguishing lives, for each memento signifying a demise he'd orchestrated. The elephant calf wailed into the obscurity, a terrified utterance, and promptly resounded the lion's bellow, "I'm here!" "You're not isolated." Thomas grasped what he truly beheld, not a lion safeguarding an elephant, but the identical frantic bid for atonement that had propelled him to this pursuit. Both endeavoring to bridge an abyss by discovering meaning in preserving another's existence. At daybreak, Thomas awoke to the lion and calf already in motion. He trailed from afar. The lion was questing snout to soil. The calf labored to match stride, motions more sluggish than prior, frailer. The infant was waning. Sans adequate sustenance, the calf possessed perhaps 2 additional days. The lion couldn't furnish what the calf genuinely necessitated. Hydration aided, but it fell short. The babe required nourishment. Thomas must intervene, entailing nearing a volatile lion sufficiently to administer aid to a feral elephant calf. He returned to his encampment and inventoried provisions. He held rations for a week plus 1 tin of powdered dairy. It wasn't elephant formula, not ideal, but it was viable. The challenge lay in approaching near enough to proffer it. The lion was defensive. One misstep, and Thomas would transition from spectator to peril. He devoted the morning to observation, absorbing the lion's routines. By midday, when swelter compelled both lion and calf to shade, Thomas identified his opening. He blended the powdered milk with water in a flat dish, incorporating salt and sugar for hydration support. Then he commenced advancing toward them, progressing deliberately, pausing intermittently. His pulse thundered. Every impulse shrieked retreat. The lion's lids parted at 50 yards. The massive skull elevated, a deep growl emanating from his thorax. Thomas halted, dropping to a knee. He positioned the dish on the earth, nudged it ahead, then withdrew 10 yards. The elephant calf detected him staggering upright, trunk elevated, ears fanned, a plea of unease. The lion mobilized instantly, interposing between man and infant, frame crouched, maw retracted. "Advance no further." Thomas remained knelt, immobile, just enduring. Minutes elapsed. 5, 10. The lion refrained from assault but stayed vigilant. Then the calf acted unexpectedly. It advanced toward the dish Thomas had placed. The trunk stretched, inquisitive, lured by the aroma of sustenance. Hunger eclipsed wariness. Thomas suspended breath as the diminutive elephant neared the dish and immersed its trunk in the fluid, imbibing voraciously. The lion advanced, stationing himself between Thomas and the calf, yet he abstained from attack. He observed, awaited as the calf consumed. The lion's stance softened progressively. Hostility ebbed, supplanted by alertness, the oversight of a custodian during nourishment. When the dish emptied, the calf gazed at Thomas with eyes devoid of dread, solely craving. Thomas, shifting cautiously, reclaimed the dish and receded. He had established contact. Tomorrow he'd attempt anew. By the third day, Thomas had instituted a regimen. Each dawn, he prepared powdered milk, approached to 30 yards, deposited the dish, and lingered while the elephant imbibed and the lion supervised with gaze that had transitioned from antagonistic to wary. The calf was reacting, not flourishing, but no longer deteriorating. Thomas noted enhancements, steadier trunk maneuvers, modest vitality surge. It wasn't sufficient, but it extended time. The lion posed the genuine enigma. Thomas dubbed him Akita, Swahili for wise, as the beast's conduct exhibited intellectual depth exceeding mere reflex. Akita was electing options. Deliberate resolutions to defend instead of pursue, to endure human proximity for assistance. On day 5, Thomas resolved a choice that would shape all. His edibles were dwindling. He'd provisioned for 3 days. Logic dictated trekking to his transport for replenishment. Instead, Thomas apportioned his residual sustenance, what he required for endurance and what the calf necessitated more. The calf prevailed in that allocation. Thomas commenced one meager repast daily, preserved fruits pureed for the infant, desiccated veggies hydrated, anything nutritive. He shed weight swiftly, 5 pounds initially, then 8. Bodily famine was perpetual, but witnessing the calf fortify marginally rendered the forfeiture vital. The lion perceived. Akita's demeanor altered around day 7. The dubious scrutiny evolved into acknowledgement, a comprehension that this human was a comrade. When Thomas neared with nourishment now, Akita would yield, permitting unobstructed entry to the calf. On day 9, an astounding event transpired. Thomas was concocting the morning feed when he recognized his hydration stock was perilously depleted. The natural font was a 2-hour circuit, and he couldn't abandon them undefended. Hyenas prowled nightly. Akita arose, elongated, and commenced toward the spring. He halted after 20 yards, glanced back at Thomas and the calf, then proceeded. "Follow, I'll reveal water." Thomas collected his vessels and trailed. The calf accompanied, adhering to Thomas now, trunk sporadically grazing his limb akin to how it contacted Akita's flank. The odd triad traversed the savanna, carnivore, herbivore, human, toward hydration. The lion directed them to a concealed basin, nourished by subterranean flows, pure water ample for weeks. Akita imbibed first, then retreated for the calf. Thomas refilled while both creatures drank, and the ludicrousness struck. Sharing a waterhole with a feral lion and juvenile elephant, all collaborating like kin. That night Thomas resolved he wasn't departing until this narrative concluded. He authorized bill settlements via phone. Subsequent repercussions would unfold. This instant superseded fiscal steadiness. By day 12, Thomas harbored profound admiration for Akita's feats. When the calf evinced curiosity in foliage, Akita felled reachable boughs. When he'd intensified, the lion excavated shallow pits for cooler soil respite. He was mastering parenthood dynamically. Thomas was acquiring too, extending powdered milk's duration, pinpointing secure flora for young elephants, interpreting Akita's cues. He was mastering a wordless dialect. The calf, whom Thomas named Tumelo, Setswana for faith, responded in heart-rending daily ways. The infant began trailing Thomas nearly as eagerly as Akita. When alarmed, the trunk sought the nearest sentinel. They had, improbably, formed a viable unit. On day 14, Thomas roused gravely sick. Fever scorched his frame. Dehydration, perhaps contagion. He attempted standing and collapsed. He crawled to water, drank, but his tremors hindered formula preparation for Tumelo. A prod at his shoulder, Thomas pried eyes open to Akita looming above. Behind, Tumelo wailed. Thomas strove to rise, but his form rebelled. Akita performed something unforgettable. The lion reclined beside him, proximate enough for Thomas to sense the feline's warmth, and remained, not assaulting, not departing, merely existent. A sentient sentinel over a downed confederate, while Tumelo nestled against Thomas's opposite flank. They endured thus through the day's peak heat. Eventually the lion departed and returned with a lifeless hare clamped in fangs. Akita deposited it beside Thomas, provisions. The lion endeavored to supply the human's needs. By dusk, the fever subsided enough for Thomas to upright and hydrate. He concocted dilute formula for Tumalo. The lion's vigil that day had conceivably preserved his existence. Akita had warded off intruders. Thomas recuperated over 2 days, recognizing he must ration wiser. If he perished here, Tumelo would too. He had to remain operational, entailing increased intake. On day 17, they detected something transformative. Elephant vocalizations afar, profound, echoing grumbles of mature elephants. Tumelo's response was instantaneous. Ears flared, trunk aloft, emitting robust replies. Kin, Tumelo's clan, and Tumelo recognized the distinct summons even remotely. The calf mobilized toward the noises, fervent, vocalizing incessantly. Akita pursued, but his gait lagged, hesitant. He comprehended the implication, the termination of their unlikely alliance. From Akita's frequent backward glances, the lion grappled with renewed sorrow. They journeyed toward the calls for 3 hours, quicker than recent days. Tumelo was invigorated, the sounds amplified. Thomas sensed them resonating through the soil, a substantial herd, sanctuary, all Tumelo required. Then Thomas sighted them. At least 20 elephants navigating acacia thickets, colossal shapes, calves varied in age, the cohesive fabric of an elephant kin. Akita ceased. The lion stood rigid, eyeing the group. Tumelo vocalized desperately for reunion, and from the herd echoed a response. A female, likely Tumelo's dam, identifying her offspring's cry after weeks of questing. The herd veered, advancing toward them. Tumelo attempted sprinting but tripped, still debilitated. A sizable female detached, hastening, trunk outstretched. Uttering tones blending anguish and elation. A mother who'd presumed her progeny lost. The lion pivoted, striding oppositely, conceding his duty fulfilled. But Tumelo summoned him. "Wait, don't depart." The lion paused but avoided turning. Thomas comprehended. The identical election he'd made 17 days prior. Akita chose affection over ownership, prioritizing the calf's welfare. It was parenthood's toughest act, release. Thomas approached Akita and enacted something suicidal. He extended a hand to the lion's flank. The touch endured a mere second, but Thomas felt Akita's quiver. The lion trembled with the strain of forsaking what had imbued his existence with meaning. The mother elephant attained Tumelo, and the reunion embodied Thomas's visions. Trunks interlacing, deep hums, intimate proximity denoting lineage. Other females encircled, caressing the infant. Tumelo was home. Yet the babe persistently glanced back at Akita, at Thomas, the 2 improbable wardens who'd sustained him. And in those nascent eyes, Thomas perceived bewilderment. How to bid adieu to kin even mismatched. An elder female, the leader, advanced and regarded Thomas with sagacious eyes. She comprehended. Her trunk reached toward Thomas, not menacing, but appreciative, a nod from one custodian to another. Then the matriarch directed her gaze to Akita, who hadn't pivoted, who stood slumped and dejected. The elephant emitted a soft hum. The lion rotated gradually, and for an extended instant, hunter and hunted locked gazes. No hostility, no terror, merely mutual acknowledgement of 2 entities who'd cherished the same offspring. The matriarch guided the herd away, Tumelo amid shielding females. The infant vocalized once more, and both Akita and Thomas replied, their utterances merging. Then they vanished. Thomas and Akita lingered in the void they'd forged by triumphing, by sustaining Tumelo long enough for true kin. The lion slumped heavily. Thomas sat adjacent, preserving prudent space but near enough for solace via proximity. They'd achieved the unattainable collectively, had flouted nature and drives, and now they must navigate the sequel. The sun dipped, tinting the Okavango Delta in hues of amber and tangerine that felt exquisite yet profoundly melancholic. Thomas extracted his final energy ration, halved it, and placed one segment between them. Akita ignored it but stayed put. They sat as twilight deepened, stars materialized. The African nocturnal symphony enveloped them. Tomorrow, Thomas would commence the arduous trek to society, confront his decision's fallout. But tonight, he communed with a lion who'd illustrated redemption. Thomas awoke on day 18 to Akita absent. The lion's imprint lingered in flattened foliage, but no further trace. Panic surged. Then he spotted tracks vanishing into undergrowth. Akita was reverting to lionhood. It was proper, yet it stung like forfeiture. Thomas stowed his scant gear leisurely. 17 wilderness days had stripped him to basics. one unfired rifle, vacant receptacles, a nearly depleted satellite phone, and a frame minus 14 pounds. Every bit yielded for a now secure infant elephant. The return to his vehicle demanded a full day, perhaps more in his enfeebled condition. Thomas progressed as dawn ascended, striving to evade thoughts of resuming a mismatched existence. Debts, vacant abode, a vocation rooted in demise he could no longer tolerate. He'd traversed perhaps 2 hours when he heard it. A distant roar, not proximate but audible, Akita's timbre, and this instance, something hair-raising. Not belligerence, an invitation, a beckon. Thomas altered course toward the sound. Reason decried folly, but intuition prevailed. Akita summoned him. He located the lion a quarter-mile distant, at a clearing's verge, but Akita wasn't solitary. 3 juvenile lions encircled him with cautious hostility, probes, assessing arrival. Akita defended, but Thomas discerned fatigue in the cat's contours. Weeks of unyielding watch had exacted payment. Akita had strayed into rival turf, diminished post-tumolo guardianship instead of self-preservation. The youth scented vulnerability, chanced to fillet. Seasoned male. Thomas elevated his rifle, not targeting lions, but discharging skyward. The report thundered across the glade. All 4 beasts recoiled. The trio fled into foliage. Akita persisted, flanks heaving, regarding Thomas with those golden eyes. Thomas descended the rifle and retreated, but Akita advanced, narrowing to 15 feet, and settled wearily, not menace, bond. They endured thus minutes, Thomas assimilating. He'd preserved Akita's life, meddled in organic strife, upending equilibrium as profoundly as Akita had by shielding tumolo. They were square. Both had favored fidelity over rationale. Thomas knelt deliberately, depositing the rifle beside him. He required it no more, couldn't fathom directing it at vitality again. The armament symbolized his former self, the slayer who claimed existences. That individual ceased, Akita observed as Thomas arose and departed, abandoning the rifle, a monumental emblem. He elected his identity, defender, sentinel, one opting hardship for righteousness. The lion shadowed distantly as Thomas resumed trek, not intrusive yet perceptible. At points Akita led, guiding easier paths. Upon reaching Thomas's Land Rover, Akita halted at tree line. Thomas neared the conveyance slowly. It was unscathed. The motor, after hesitation, ignited. Thomas idled in the seat, gazing where Akita lurked in gloom. The lion observed, skull erect, grasping this as genuine farewell. Thomas lifted a hand in parting, engaged gear, and drove. Not to Safari Hub, not vacant home, but Maun, nearest settlement. For in those 17 days, a notion had germinated. The 6-hour rough road journey ran on vapors, but whenever fatigue threatened veering, he recalled Akita's vigil during his fever, Tumelo's reliance. Purpose propelled him. Maun jarred re-entry to civility, asphalt, structures, folk engrossed in devices and routines, oblivious to impossibilities hours distant in wilds. Thomas secured budget lodging and crumpled onto a plush bed. Awakening 12 hours later, he accessed email, irate safari missives, fretful sister notes, automated invoices. Thomas perused detachedly as if another's woes. Then he drafted, to Rachel, recounting events he anticipated incomprehension, but she merited truth. Second to 3 conservation entities he'd vetted. He possessed fieldwork, behavioral insight, dire urge for significance. Opportunities in photo tours, anti-poach patrols, monitoring, anything protective over lethal. The toughest, to safari firm, formally dissolving pact. No rationale in mere declaration. Litigation loomed. Irrelevant now. Rachel phoned promptly, voice blending relief and frustration. Tommy, what on earth? He elucidated Akita and Tumalo. Rachel heeded, straining comprehension. So you're abandoning hunting after 15 years? Just so? Thomas murmured. It's accumulated since Catherine, realizing slaying didn't mend her loss. I needed alternative. Found it. And now? Survival? Uncertain, but I'll resolve. Email replies trickled day 3. 2 declines. Third, human-wildlife conflict resolvers. Solicited interview. Thomas arrived in dirt-caked garb. Director Kumo, 20-year veteran, appraised candidly. Your repute precedes, Mr. Mercer. Premier trophy guide in Botswana. Why entrust conservation? Because I grasp both perspectives, Thomas replied. Hunter's rationale, justifications, costs, not solely animal demise, but inner toll on trigger puller. I can mediate, converse with landholders viewing wildlife as menace, illuminate alternatives. Can't erase 15 years' errors, but can devote next 15 equilibrating. Kumo scrutinized. Position, community connector. Aid villages bordering reserves, mitigate human-elephant clashes, crop raids, damage. Solutions sans fatalities. Pays quarter your hunt wage. Interested? Thomas felt release. Hope, momentum viable. When commence? Next week. But prove sincerity. Okavango panhandle issue. Elephant herd via farms. Locals summon hunters. Diffuse sans death, beast or person. Can you? It was trial. Thomas knew. Yes. Labor matched Kumo's forewarning. Community raged justifiably. Elephants raised 2 weeks' yields. Harvest-reliant kin-face scarcity. They prioritized survival over preservation. Eyed herd as hazard. Thomas dwelt village 3 days, hearkening grievances, surveying ruin, discerning elephant paths. Why this trail? These plots? What alterations to reroute sans harm? Resolution proved simpler. Elephants traced archaic migration blocked by farm growth. Not deliberate sabotage, but fields obstructed water access. Thomas collaborated community to forge narrow passage for elephants bypassing crops. First trial day 6, herd neared habitually, led by Grand Matriarch. Thomas stationed in fresh corridor, pulse pounding. Failure risked lives, theirs shot beasts. Matriarch halted 30 feet, trunk probing air. Thomas stilled, permitting assessment, path, shift. Tense seconds. Then she stepped corridor ward. Herd trailed, passing Thomas near enough to glimpse timeless wisdom in eyes, near enough for lethality if desired, but they proceeded to needed water. Village elder approached post-passage. You comprehend them, he stated. Not query. Their needs. Had fine instructor, Thomas whispered, evoking trusting infant elephant. Triumph propagated conservation circles. Thomas demanded. Other villages, varied clashes, each unique yet principled. Comprehend sides, locate intersection, elect life valuing. 6 months post-Akita Tumalo parting, message halted Thomas. Okavango monitoring squad noted odd conduct. Dark-maned solitary male lion near elephant groups. Not pursuing, merely observing. 1 10-month calf fearless of lion, neared if permitted. Thomas knew sans photos, them, sustaining forged link. Squad perplexed, plotting study. Thomas grinned per report. Let research. He lived it, witnessed survival drive yield profundity. He persisted, village to village, clash to clash, devising non-fatal resolutions. Pay abysmal, savings evaporated, house sold, but fitting. Catherine urged good. This, safeguarding human livelihoods, elephant existences, was precisely. Year post-encounter, invited Gaborone Conservation Summit speech. Nearly refused. Oration not forte, but Kumo pressed. Folks need here. Conservation, not animals over humans, but overlap. Thomas podium-faced scientists, conservationists, felt alien. Spied Rachel third row. She'd flown supportively. Thomas spoke sans script, from recollection core. Detailed trigger hesitation moment, Akita shielding Tumalo. 3 disparate entities unified by post-loss purpose quest. Narrated sacrifice, starving for elephant feed, lion teaching love sufficient for release. Room hushed finish. Rear applause initiated, spread, room erupted, some wept, Rachel assuredly. Post-talk animal cognition grad approached. Story implies cross-species empathy exceeds models. Research participation? Thomas pondered reducing Akita Tumalo to data, then lives savable via comprehending animals' emotional ties. If aids, yes. Study spanned 6 months. Dialogues, site trips, note reviews. Paper stirred academia. Grief-propelled parental drive cross-species in wilds. Predator-prey collaboration viable under conditions. Thomas indifferent to science sway, but profoundly to sequel. 3 fresh organizations solicited team training. 2 years post-rifle lowering, Thomas revisited origin spot. Unplanned, corridor evaluation detour, but compelled halt. Ascended old perch, overlooked savanna. Unaltered terrain, but transformed Thomas. Lighter, serene. Distant motion. Elephant herd via acacias. Thomas binoculared, pulse quickening, could be. Scanned for 2-year juvenile. There, larger than recalled, but left ear tier distinctive. Tumalo. Youth adhered to large female, dam evidently, but motions confident, secure, belonging. Thomas observed hour till herd faded. No summons, no nearness, that era sealed. Tumalo had kin, future, sufficient. As departure prepped, roar distant yet clear, from herd's direction. Not hostile, presence declaration. I'm here, watching. Akita, enduring, surviving. Roar hinted recollection, 17 days imprint. Thomas contemplated lion seeking final sight, but narrative needed open-endedness, lives progressing. All advanced, found fresh intents. Thomas descended vehicle ward. He'd reclaimed abandoned rifle weeks later, intended sale, but clung. Halted at ravine, hurled rifle vehemently, watched arc into thorns below. Ultimate old self-severance, success gauged by demise no more. Thomas drove from outcrop last, 2-year metamorphosis, solidifying permanence. Work awaited, villagers needing aid, beast protection. Somewhere in Delta vastness, lion-elephant taught redemption via minor elections, amassing greater. Hunter turned protector, predator guardian. 3 lives briefly, meaningfully crossed, diverged, marked eternally. Sunset as main road reached, rearview wilderness infinite, ancient. Ahead, future on 17 impossible days base, learning life choice over death. True finale, not reunion, release. Not seal continuance. 3 shifts from single non-trigger pull, rippling via work years, policy shifts. Communities valuing wildlife anew. Thomas grinned, driving. Pondering future photo mail arriving. Lion-elephant adjacent. Proof bonds endure all. Even nature, time, predator-prey chasm. But forthcoming. Tonight village awaited. Work, live safeguard. First since Catherine's demise felt sufficient. More purpose, atonement, home. 5 years post-morning rifle lowering, package arrived, sans return. Photo from Delta long-range cam. Depicted adult male lion acacia shaded, beside young adult elephant. Elephant trunk toward lion, greeting, acknowledgement. Lion relaxed, peaceful. Back scrawled, some bonds survive everything, even nature. Thomas wall-hung photo in modest community center office, coordinating coexistence initiatives. Visitors queried authenticity. Thomas smiled, affirmed real. Relationship originated 5 years prior, 3. Shattered beings mutual protecting for purpose. Full tale shared if probed. Occasionally curiosity prompted all. Trigger non-pull morning. 17 days impossibility normalizing. Learning redemption not past erasing, but differing choices opportunely. Dialogues concluded identically. Regrets? Wish shot taken, money collected, known life continued. Thomas unchanging. Wife perished, urging good, meaningful. 2 years post, unclear. But Delta morning, lion shielding baby elephant comprehended. Good, not grand public, but minor compassion over ease. Sacrifice want for others' need. That lion humanized me anew. Soul regret. 15 years. Wife's death to learn 17-day lesson. Thomas sustained work. Village, clash. Teaching wildlife coexistence viable, preferable. Victories. Herds safe corridor passing. Farmers compensation accepting. Communities elephant tourism revenue exceeding destruction cost. Defeats. Elephants shot fearful owners. Lions retaliatory killed. Reality human behavior change harder than animal. But Thomas learned wilderness patience. Transformation gradual. Accumulated choices over abrupt insights. Witnessed impossible family form 17 days. Trust builds slowly. Same for conservation. Daily appear. Patient elect. Relationship over instant outcomes. 7 years post-encounter. Thomas testified Botswana Trophy Hunt Policy Review Parliamentary Committee. Nation pondered restrictions. Both factions sought backing via unique history. Trophy guide worked, but walked. Conservation devoted. Thomas 90-minute testified. No full ban advocacy. No hunt, no place argue, but spoke killing focus losses. Communities hunt to photo-tourism sustainable income shift. Legal life-taking interchanges unrecognized till cease. Killed last lion 7 years ago, committee told. Except non-trigger pull. Chose watch overshoot. Choice saved 3. Lion learning protect. Calf learning family boundless. Own. Dying inwardly from years life-taking called conservation. Non-killed lion taught wildlife management more than 15 hunt years. Sometimes bravest lower weapon. Watch nature sans control. With understanding. Committee silent heated. Member queried expected. Back to morning, knowing now same choice. Thomas unhesitant. Every time. Even calf died, lion attacked, all wrong. Choice revealed true self beneath justifications. Worth finding, costing all thought needed. Committee 6 months later voted, no full ban, but major restrictions. Alternative wildlife economy funding boost. All guides non-lethal resolution mandatory training. Not all conservationists wanted, but progress, rightward movement. 8 years post-lowering Thomas Newfield worker training when urgent call. Young lion, unusual behavior near village. Local scared, hunter summon talk. Assess? Thomas immediate drove. Arrived, crowd safe distance, watched calm, young male lion village water source sitting. Not hunting, threatening, waiting. Thomas slow approached, studied, posture familiar, amber eyes, non-aggressive. Then saw, shoulder scar pattern distinctive, healed claw marks remembered 17-day observation. Not any lion, Akita offspring. Timing fit, behaviors matched. Youth learned father, humans allies over threats, cooperation possible. Now sought same, drawn human presence by inherited, taught instinct. Thomas cross-legged sat 20 feet, waited. Crowd gasped. He ignored. Watched youth's eyes, recognition dawn. Not specific Thomas, but represented. Safety, alliance, coexistence. Minutes post. Lion stood, walked away, non-threatened, aggressive, moving on. Crisis violence sounds diffused. Thomas villagers turned. No threat. Water seeking. Learned humans water near harmless. Leave alone harmless pass. Elder advanced. You're one. Hunter stopped hunting, lived lion baby elephant. Stories heard. Thomas nodded. Witnessed proof. 8-year incident not isolated. Changed behaviors. Not me only, but animals. Youth humans approaches differently because father learned cooperation possible. Building not dominance, but relationship. Encounter story rapid spread. Weeks. Africa conference invites. Message simple, powerful. Individual choices matter. One non-kill rippled generations, literally altering predator-human interactions. If lions possible, all wildlife too. 10 years post-encounter, Thomas 57, full-time conservation. Body field decade-worn, hair full gray. Eyes sun-squint lined, but felt younger than 45. When grief, purposelessness, inwardly devoured. Routine, Delta near wildlife corridor assessment, decided outcrop revisit. 8 years absent. Told self chapter closed, but pulled back. Ascended old spot sunset, savanna, gold, orange shaded. Vantage, miles visible, riverbed, Akita water dug, acacias heat sheltered, vastness, transformation witnessed. Motion caught, single elephant slow plane crossing, mature bull 12-13, confident territory, place knowing. Thomas binoculared, distance even, left ear tear distinctive, tumalo, grown, powerful, independent, hoped. Elephant halted, turned direct outcrop ward, Thomas sat. Long moment distance stared. Thomas lowered binoculars, let tumalo clear see, decide moment meaning. Tumalo trunk raised air. Not threat greeting, elephant presence acknowledgement gesture. Then turned, continued, darkness fading. Thomas sat, stars emerge. Eyes wet, not sadness, completion overwhelm. Helped alive baby thrived. Redemption showing lion offspring lessons past. Thomas life built sacrifice meaning ensuring. As last time outcrop descended, Thomas felt contentment, not exact happiness, life, hard work unfinished, but deep where needed doing meant sense. Drove twilight fade, wilderness, ancient rhythms leaving. Tomorrow, more villages, resolutions, teachings, coexistence possible. Tonight, decade transformation culmination witnessed. Proof compassion, convenience over world, small permanent change. Office. Wall photo, not been reminder. Still possible proof. Hunter protector become predator guardian. 17 impossible cooperation days, rippling years, generations, behaviors changing, lives saving. Thomas Akita thought driving still alive? 13 wild male lifespan end nearing. Maybe gone, maybe out teaching offspring tumalo protection learned lessons. Legacy secure. Thomas insured via influenced policies, taught communities, trained workers, now others teaching. Ripples beyond sea measure. Thomas Monhouse returned. Desk sat, wrote. Not report, manual, personal, Rachel letter. Decade busy unarticulated explaining transformation. Redemption, learning valuable trophy not killed mounted. But let live thrive watched. Wrote till dawn, words unprecedented flow. Finished, realized not letter, testament. Record what when one differently chose, grief purpose found, impossibility new life foundation. Thomas sealed, a side set. Rachel someday read, maybe post gone. Understand, brother, why everything familiar walked, remaining years animals protecting over killing. Sun mound rising, sky shades delta reminding. Out there. Tumalo herd water leading, Akita offspring humans allies learning. Wilderness life, death, survival, eternal cycle. Thomas cycle part 15 destroyer years, decade protector. Balance never equal. Taken lives undo never. But remaining days different, better choices. Honoring grieving lion 17 impossible days taught lesson. Good, not perfection, trying. Daily show, compassion convenience over choose, life value all, even personal cost. Thomas keys grabbed, door headed. Another village waited, conflict resolution needed, chance 17 days lessons, world change, one small choice time. Mon outdrove, wilderness ward rebuilt him. Thought office wall photo, Akita, Tumalo side resting years post impossible family end. Bond survive all, even species distance, time passage. Real story. Not one hunter stopped, but possible when compassion convenience over, grief purpose transform. 3 lives briefly, meaningfully intersect. Ripples beyond witness measure. Thomas smiled, driving. Morning sun, windshield warm. Ahead wilderness waited, ready whatever next. Armed not rifle, but knowledge powerful weapon, not life take, but choice let flourish. This redemption, not perfect, complete, but real, enough.